from serial entrepreneur, from bust to an 8-figure business and repeat. John has gone through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and has created several businesses. Some were sold to other entrepreneurs and some were just closed. He is currently the CEO of Papaloni Capital with an active realtor and mortgage license. He helps people build generational wealth through real estate investing, whether it's through helping someone acquire their own property or joining his syndication and joint venture. He helps people with available opportunities. You are listening to That Big CEO Energy, where we talk all things business, life, marriage, and push you to a new edge of discovering what that big CEO energy means for you. Listen, I understand that we have barriers that we carry from when we were once employees, and those have impacted us as we continue to build our businesses. I'm here to walk alongside you and give you encouragement through interviews with friends and other women in business who have broken down those barriers and paved their own way. Tune in with me as we uncover some of the unconscious things that we do that keep us from building that big CEO energy we've always dreamed about. Let's dive in. John, thanks for coming to the show today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember us connecting on the Facebook group Need a Guest, which for those of you that are in the podcasting world, I don't know, I've just found that group to be amazing, to make connections with people that I would have never met otherwise. And so I'm so glad that you and I got connected because you have some really amazing background. And our conversation for today, I'm really excited about because a lot of women feel really intimidated to either step into the real estate side of things or step into investing because it is a male-dominated industry, right? Like, let's just call a duck. But they also have kind of this, they almost feel jaded that like they're the only ones that have ups and downs, right? Because a lot of what we see on social media and a lot of what is painted is most of the male industry is, I'm here, I've made it, and I'm doing the thing. And they don't really, don't really see sort of the ups and downs in the background. And so my first question is, talk to me a little bit kind of about your journey and how you started in the real estate industry. And then what are some of those ups and downs that you've had to deal with over these last years?
Absolutely. I mean, I want to start off by saying, I heard what you just said, and I found it a little surprising, because it's one of those things that there's just a natural fact. There's differences between men and women. Now, some of it is mindset and some of it is just biological, the way we're just born.
Absolutely.
And what I mean is that women tend to be able to handle more pain, handle more, tribulations than men. Men sort of like kind of crumble, which is why sometimes you see them bullying. When they're bullying, it's not that they're necessarily a bully. They're more reserved, held back, and don't know what to do. So the only way out is to try to punch their way out, mostly metaphorically, but then that can come across as aggressive, right? And where women tend to be more, pathological, they can figure it out and take the steps. It's not reaction. And that's just been my experiences, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's everybody. Sure. Right? Yeah. So, but anyways, with that being said, my background in history has been, look, I've been a serial entrepreneur, like you said. It's been one of those things that, I don't know, maybe I just have trouble working with people. I don't know what it is, but it's like, I had a job one time for 3 months, and I was under the director, and within 15 minutes of meeting me, she turned to me and says, "You're used to being the boss, aren't you?" So, and I told her nothing about my past. And so obviously I gave out some vibe that made her click into that. She was right. But for someone who didn't know me, she picked that up in 15 minutes.
Why do you think that is?
I wish I knew. Right? Like, I was surprised. It just blew me away. I didn't expect that. Wow. Now, you know what? Maybe it is because I'm that jump up, take charge kind of person.
Sure.
And maybe that give the vibe. I'm not. And let's be honest, when you're working for Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000s, whichever one you want to refer it to, there's a process. And I'm the type of person that if hit the enter button is the answer, then hit the damn enter button. What's this process? You know what I mean? Like what's so complicated about it? And I didn't really ask. I just did. And maybe that kind of, everyone else was a little tippy-toeing. And I just sort of just got through it, right? And maybe that's what it was. So I think the way you carry yourself actually says something too. So going to where I'm saying with the process of entrepreneurship, I think today it sounds like a cool word, something like everything everybody wants to do, but I don't necessarily think it's something everybody should do. Mm-hmm. And that's where self-awareness comes in. Now, it looks easy. You have an idea, you solve a problem, you present it to the market, and you collect your money. That's what people think. Yeah. A lot of times, it is quite the opposite. You have an idea, it doesn't work out the way you want it to work out. You have people ordering it, you've already committed, but you don't have the product to deliver because it doesn't do what it said it would do. And then you have to kind of figure that out where you're not upsetting them. And at the same time, you're getting the delivery, and usually all the pressure lies on you. Yeah. And it's every time you thought, ooh, I made $100, you get another bill that's for $150. Every time you figure that $150, now you need $200. So it's almost like you're always playing catch up. Now, the benefit is there is a certain point that the scale tips, but it's usually much, much later. Like if you think you're going to do something in 6 months, more than likely it'll be 18 months. It goes both ways. It's either 18 months if you thought 6 months, or it's 3 months. Sure. And there's nothing in between.
Agreed.
Right? But I mean, nobody tells you this stuff. Nobody tells you that you're going to have to live on your line of credit because stores say they will pay you in 30 days, and more than likely it'll be 90 days. Nobody tells you that. So you get 30 days and going, checks in the mail. No, that's what they told you on the phone. I haven't even looked at it yet. By the time you get it, it's 60 to 90 days later. So, but that means I need a line of credit. Correct. Wow. So if you don't like feeling squeezed in the first 5 years, then this industry is not for you. And that's just something becoming aware of it and just accepting it.
Yeah.
So, and I've been on both sides of the fence, as we said. I was a consumer in the beginning. I didn't do things because I thought my business was fantastic. I did not do things because I thought, wow, look at the wealth I can build. For me, I wanted to get rich, and I want to get rich through income. Mm. And that's like people who go to work every day, working as a drone, as I'll call it, for working that 9 to 5, who are going to save their way to millions. Let me tell you, that dream is just as impossible as the statement I made before, where I thought I was going to earn my way to riches.
Oh, I love that. It's so true. Mm-hmm.
Right? So, and I didn't learn it, and I paid the price for that. And I'll give you an example. I thought it was easy because I was fortunate. My very first, second business, but my very first business that I consider a real business. My first business was a DJing business, just because I wanted to get into radio. But that, I started at 15 years old, kind of graduated or grew up, whatever way you want to look at it, by 20. And that's when I started my first print and marketing business.
Cool.
And yeah, that at that point in time, it came easy to me. I worked at a gym part-time while I was in school, and I just got to know everybody. When they heard I was in the print business or the graphics business, they started giving me work, and that's how it built up. And I started, building up like ridiculous amounts of money. Like I would have no hesitation. Got so ridiculous that I wanted a car, go to the dealership and buy it. And they're saying, when do you want it? How fast can you get it to me? And that's one thing I got a lesson out of here. Although some negative came out of this, which is where I'm about to go to it, there was a positive. I learned the importance of speed. Speed is actually the most important part of it. If you can do something, trust me, when a person's talking to you, their mentality is, why isn't it already in my possession? Even though they're talking to you now, and how would you have known that? But that's the mindset of the customer. Mm-hmm. So I learned the process of speed because I was that guy. I go into the dealership and I wanted that thing wrapped up and ready to go by the time we were finishing talking. So how fast can you get it to me? Back then, things were longer. It took a week. That was painful. That was annoying to me. But again, process of speed. That's a lesson. Now, budgeting. I learned budgeting from this too. But again, the more I needed, the more I made. It was just easy. Everything landed in my lap. I was just in the right circle, which brings up lesson number 2, which is it's more important who you surround yourself with than what you surround yourself with. The book, Who, Not How, is probably the most fundamental thing you can read, because it doesn't matter how great your product is. It doesn't matter how many whys you answer. A lot of times success comes from who. And you have a product, the question should be, who needs this product? Who do I have to interact with to make this product come out the way I need it to come out to? Who do I have to talk to get it on the right shelves? I mean, we all know how. Get it on the shelf at Walmart. Great, but how do you do that? No, it's who do you talk to?
Yeah.
Right? Like everything revolves around who. And we break down how and why. And I say when people are talking about how and why, it leads to analysis paralysis. How leads to small-mindedness, small thinking. Whatever you're thinking too small. It is just as easy to go from 1 to 10 million as it is to go to 100,000 to 200,000. It's just, the thing that holds us back is that we're afraid. And we're usually afraid because you got a line of credit for 80 grand. Oh my God, I might fill it up. Well, try needing 800 grand.
Mm-hmm.
That comes unfathomable in our minds. So, right? There's obviously ways to do that, and you do it over time as you scale.
Sure.
But the point is that there's a lot of things there. Now, going to where my story was, I thought it was invincible. And I got to the point that at the time, the place that my biggest client at that time was Bali Total Fitness, which was bought out by Good Life later on down the road. But originally, the original owners were American, and they were bought, they had Canadian locations. So eventually I had both sides of the border ordering from me, which was great. But when they bought another club, a new person came in, and that person ran the Canadian side. And that person, from what I understand, his sister did what I did. So we already know where that's going.
Yeah.
Right. So I kept some of the business, but then I did, there was some things we weren't aligned with. And then I moved on, they moved on, yada, yada, yada. I mean, the reasons why were really irrelevant. Sure. Where the lesson here was, remember I just said my head was as big as Texas. Right. So I was egotistical and I didn't think I needed anybody. I kept spending as if I had that income, and I thought it'd be easy. I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to do what I want. 6 months down the road, I'll go back to working. Moral of the story is I went bankrupt as a result of that.
Wow.
That was the lesson, and the lesson of gratitude, as well as every other lesson that I just finished telling you about, came from. Because when you analyze what happened, the first thing you want to do is not repeat it. So, and there's nothing wrong with it, because I'm actually would not take that back. I mean,
Really?
Yeah, I would not take that back. I would not have learned what I've learned now. I would have never hit an 8-figure business or more had that not happened.
What were some of your thoughts when you were going through that bankrupt time? Put us in your head there for a minute.
Yeah. Now, originally, put it this way, I didn't take the bankruptcy lightly. It wasn't even my idea. What ended up happening was I went through a whole process where, for lack of a better description, I ended up going bankrupt because I was pushed by my dad because he got sick of collection people calling his house. I mean, it wasn't my only decision, but it was one of those things that led to that. That was kind of just the final straw. Eventually, you get tired of the stress. You feel like you're choking.
Yeah.
And that's when I discovered that it was even possible. So then I made a decision to say, how do I start fresh? How do I start over? How do I never be in this spot again?
But you still didn't want to go work for someone else.
No. Don't get me wrong. The bankruptcy process is a 9-month process. Yeah. So let's get that clear. It's not like you wake up one morning, file for bankruptcy at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., you're off the go and it's all over.
Right. Yep.
Right? Like you're technically in bankruptcy for 9 months. It's not free, but it's manageable.
Yeah.
Right. So what ends up happening is they're negotiating. And then what happens is they talk to the creditors. Now the creditors decide how far they want to go with it. Mine was small enough that they all just wrote off everything. It wasn't worth fighting. But sometimes you can end up paying 10 cents on the dollar, 20 cents on the dollar, whatever the agreement is. And there's still some path. It's not as simple as it sounds, but it's not as terrible as it sounds either.
Sure.
So for mine was so low and so straightforward. They didn't see any wrongdoing in the way that they didn't feel that there was like any fraudulent stuff there. So pretty much the lenders just looked at it and just let it go. Wasn't worth their time.
Sure.
So, and I was fortunate that way. But again, the key thing was not that I got off the hook. The key thing was the lesson I got from that, right? The learning opportunity. I mean, it formed who I am.
Yeah.
Right. And that's another lesson to point out. Don't look at failures as in taboo. Look at them as a learning lesson and look at that as a way to form the new you.
Yeah. What did the new you look like after you walked away from that bankruptcy?
I ended up looking at things differently. I dropped the ego. That's the first thing I did, is I dropped the ego. I no longer felt invincible. And at that point in time, I looked for opportunities. And even sometimes you don't see them. But now I'm more aware. I'm more receptive to things around me instead of being closed off. Some people call that open-mindedness, but I learned to look at things through a different lens. And a prime example, here's how I built that print and marketing business, because I obviously went in a second time. And that's the business that went to 8 figures a year. But I learned to look at things from a different perspective. And I'll give you an example. I'm going to use printing because that's the easiest to describe. Every printer out there, the way it works is they print a big print sheet and then they want to make magazines and booklets. Everybody wants those big print presses, 1 million books, 2 million books, $10 million orders, and ship them through. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to do the small stuff. Everybody hates it. And I'll give you an example, business cards. Sure. As a new business owner, you got a new business card, you take pride in that. Trust me, the printer does not want that. They don't want your business. They're just not going to say no because they know that they'll lose the big business if they do.
Yeah.
But for them, it's an actual burden because for that $50 business card, they're turning on the press that cost them $1,000. So it's always a loss leader. Now they group a little bit together, so it's not as bad, but there's no money in it. Not back then. I found a way, said, okay, you want these big sheets. How many can you fit on these big sheets? 60 of them. I'll get 60 customers, put them on the big sheet, print them. You get the big sheet you want to print, and I'll get 60 things. $50 times 60, that's $3,000 a print sheet. The cost to run that was $1,400. That's including their profit, which they want and are happy to do. Right. They get their $1,400, which is their minimum, so they make profit and they can pay their staff. I get $3,000, so I have $1,600 profit, which then I can pay my staff and all that and have profit in there as well. Everybody's winning. So I found what's the pain point there? What is everybody struggling with? And I found a new creative way to go out and get the business that nobody wanted. Finding a way, if you find something, like everybody wants that big business, right? And it's the same thing with any other industry. Everyone wants to get the same thing. I think they call it blue ocean, red ocean. Mm-hmm. If you find what people don't want to do, and you find a way to make that profitable, you found that niche market. Yeah. And when you find that niche market, then you find the world of opportunity and it can grow from there. And it sounds like you're going to be, labeling yourself and stuck. But believe it or not, you get the other business that everybody wants to because you become a go-to contact. And when you become that go-to contact, you're a resource. And when you're somebody's resource, oh, I need this and I need that. Oh, John does that. John does that. John does that. Next thing you know, you have all the business. Mm-hmm. So you want to be someone's go-to, and that's the objective.
Yeah, absolutely. When you started to sort of turn the corner and figure out that, okay, I've dropped the ego, I've let that go. Now I need to start getting creative. And you start getting creative. What was sort of your mentality then? Did you find yourself start going back to sort of this ego, or did you find yourself really on the track of like, okay, let's do it different?
I am very self-aware. Okay. And I've always caught myself. I had the problem that once I found that niche market, I became so busy. I felt like I was choking all the time. Not to say that I wanted this, but if people left, I didn't care. And it wasn't because I wanted them to leave. It was because I could not keep up with what I was getting. And again, there was multiple things. Could not keep on finances. There's only so much credit you're going to have. There's only so much whatever. I ended up getting investors and I paid them 20% interest because I could not front any more orders. I've reached the maximum capacity at everything. So I did whatever it took to get the orders that pleased the customer. Again, customer service was my whole objective here. The customer came first on every avenue. And what I just could not keep up with the orders on the financing side. I needed 3 people. I would hire 5. And the minute I hired 5, I needed 8. And then the minute I needed 8, I needed 11. I just could not keep up. And so no matter what, I was carried the load, the burden. And what ends up, I was choking at all times. It got to the point that I was always angry. There was no ego, but there was no time. And eventually I solved that too. So eventually things, work themselves out. Again, one of the creative ways to do it, found investors. I didn't want to sell equity, so I offered percentage of the loan. So if I borrowed 10,000 because that was my minimum, you would get 2,000 in interest per year. Give me 90 days notice and you can get out at any time. I just asked for 90 days. So it gave me 3 months to come up with the money to give them back. And I didn't use that to grow the business. I used that to fund the orders. I used the income to grow the business. I reinvested. But I would not use investors' money for growth. So it was almost as close as guaranteed as it possibly could be.
Yeah. When did you move your mentality from I'm rich to I'm wealthy? And what does that mean to you?
Okay, well, let's start off with the definition of wealthy.
Please.
The definition of wealthy is to be able to wake up every single day and not panic on how things are going to get paid. You have a system that generates cash flow, whether you are working or not. Prime example, since I'm in the real estate business, as you know, I'll use real estate.
Yeah.
When you have a rental unit that's producing cash flow, you're not worried about the monthly income from that because September 1st, rents get cashed, mortgage is $800, rent is $1,200, you got $400 for yourself. You need 20 of those, now you got $8,000 a year. There's your $100,000 a year. You're not worried about where it's coming from, as an example. Wealth is not just financial, but the mentality of peace. Like there's always worry because let's be honest, if you make $1,000 a year, you're going to have certain worries. You make $10,000 a year, you're going to have certain worries. Mark my words, if you're making $100 million, you have other worries. The worries are always there. It's just what type of worries that changes. So it's a matter of learning to enjoy the process over trying to make the problems go away. If you don't have any problems because you have nothing going on.
Say that again for the people in the back. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And that's exactly it. So that being said, enjoy the journey, learn to enjoy the process and just build bigger systems and stop thinking so small. So again, wealth is that cash flow generating monthly that happens through your system where you don't have to constantly panic and chase it. Right? What is retirement? People's perception of retirement is that pension. That's the old school way. Go to school, get a good education to get a job and blah, 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 blah. You get your pension. Well, in a way, that's a form of wealth because you got that pension month in, month out, whether you're working or not.
Yeah.
Now, the part that people don't realize is that number is so low that you're barely surviving and inflation will eat it. Investing. And this is where wealth creates. Getting rich is earning $1 million. Getting wealthy is investing. So your investments will pay you a passive income consistently. So I always say, work to get rich, invest to get wealthy.
Work to get rich, invest to get wealthy. Wow.
Yeah. The minute you get yourself out of consumerism, I mean, everybody wants the fancy car. I made $1 million, I'm going to go buy a Ferrari. Sure. And if you're that person who bought the Ferrari because you made $1 million, then you were stupid. And I was one of those stupid people before. I am not anymore because I learned. And it doesn't seem stupid because, hey, it's only a portion of my income. Sure. Yes. But if you use that money, that portion, because remember, it's not you make $1 million and you take home $1 million. You make that $1 million and the tax man's going to take at least half of that, right? Because earned income is taxable income. And when you take half of that, now you got the other half. Well, once you spent the money on the car, that money's gone forever. And every year that car is worth less and less and less and less. There's no return. But if you take that money, invest it into a property, again, I'm going to use real estate just because I'm in that business, invest it into a property, that gives you monthly rent. Now, eventually you have enough property that monthly rent will earn you the Ferrari at the end of the year. Now, when you made it from the investment, use that passive income, then buy your Ferrari. That's what you call the FU money, because it's constant income and you can use it and spend it and it's back again next month. Your earned income, once it's spent, it's gone.
Wow. Wow. Something that you said really kind of hit home. And it was this idea that when you start thinking in a wealth mentality, your problems don't change by the dollar value that you have, right? They don't just go away. You don't just wake up with $10 million the next day and you're like, I have no problems because I've made all the money that I want to make in my life.
No, definitely.
When those problems start to change, right? It's very easy for us to just kind of set those aside and focus on continuing making more, driving more, being more and more. And then all of a sudden we find ourselves back in this consumerism. What would you say to someone that is really wanting to be intentional, to build wealth, so that when they get to whatever dollar it is, right, that they have in their mind, they don't get sucked into this idea that we often get painted that because we've hit X amount of dollars, right? We see it all the time. Millionaires, they're out on their yacht and they're driving these fancy cars. And friends, let me tell you, they still live on credit just like all the rest of us. Let's not mince words, right? What would you say to just you and me, right? General good folks. What would you say to those people that want to really be intentional with their money, to start wealth investments? What's a good place for us to start?
Well, first of all, stop, demoralizing or creating that sense of having money is evil, because money's not evil. It's the people that use it that choose to be evil or good. Stop, demonizing it. That's the first place to start. Second place to start, and actually that should be the second place to start. The first place to start is start believing in yourself. Best investment you can make is in yourself, in your learning, in your growth. And once you've learned that and you invest in yourself, stop demonizing the money and realizing that growing more isn't evil. If you don't like what you see in the mirror, that's not a reflection of the money. It's a reflection of your beliefs. So change your beliefs, change your mind, change your outcome. You can always use the money you make towards good. We have a lot of homeless people. Hey, create a shelter for them. Do something.
Yeah.
Right? So there's good that can come out of it. Like there's too many people waiting for the government to save them. But what is that? A government is a wealthy, rich enterprise, and it's coming off your back. So how do they help you? By taking the money they took from you and putting it back into the system. So you can do the same, just at a different level. So where I'm going with this is once you believe in yourself and you stop demonizing it, and you got to realize that money isn't the answer to everything, and what I mean by that is $1 million isn't your retirement. Like in today's day and age, in 2023, you have $1 million, you are broke. And a lot of people don't expect to hear that. My dad's era, who's now passed away, he would have been 90 something today. His era was you make $1 million and you never have to work again. Today you have $1 million, great, you're set for 4 years. Now what? Sounds silly, but average homes. What are the average homes in New York, as an example, is going to be over $1 million. Average homes in Toronto, where I'm at, is over $1 million. So you get $1 million and you still have a damn mortgage.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
Right? And so my point is $1 million has little to no value today in comparison to what it was. So if you saved that $1 million and thought you were set and you saved it in cash, inflation just ate it. So, and that goes back to that. You want to start, goes back to what I said at the beginning, which was earn your way to riches, but invest your way to wealth. Take your money and put money aside. Look, I tell people, Put money aside. Every paycheck you make, regardless of your debts, who cares about your debts? And I'm not saying don't pay your debts. Let's be clear on that.
Okay.
Take 15% of your income, of what you earn after, regardless of what you need it for, and invest it all the time. And I know somebody's going to turn around and say, oh, well, that's easy to say, but my credit card has to be paid. My line of credit has to be paid. Oh, I have to buy food for people. Whatever. I don't have the money. And here's a very simple answer here. You don't have the money because you don't want it. If you pay your taxes and just say that's 30%, do you call up the government saying, I'm not paying you because I need to put a pizza in the oven tonight, so I'm not paying your taxes? No. It's just paid and you figure out how to survive with what's left. Treat that 15% of your income as if that's another tax. Pretend it doesn't exist. You'll find a way to make the money you're earning last. And it sounds stupid because we underestimate the power of compound interest. What'll end up happening over a 10-year period, and let's be honest, stop following Instagram and thinking that Instagram is a way of life. Life is not, my definition of Instagram, and I really believe this was the definition created, instant gratification. No such thing, right? We want it. And why is that so compelling? Because we do it. I post a picture, I post a video. Wow, I got 30 likes in an hour. Ooh, 300 likes in a day. Well, go pay your mortgage with those likes and let me know how that went. And where I'm going with this is stop looking for that instant gratification. Compound interest over a long period of time will outweigh anything you're going to do. So when you're taking that 15% and you're investing it, like I said, my journey in the beginning, I needed $150, but I made $100. Then found a way to $150, then I needed $200. And I just kept doing that. Now, where compound interest comes in, by doing that 15%, all of a sudden your income is still crap, but that investment income and that passive income we're talking about is now outweighing your income over time. And when it outweighs that, next thing you know, now your debts are going down because you're earning more from the compound interest than you're paying. The table turns and you need that patience to get that table to turn. So don't give up. It's a 10-year process, roughly. And most overnight successes were overnights after 10 years.
Yes.
So
I just want to add too that for the people that are listening, when he says that we're investing and we're taking 15%, you're not taking it from yourself. You're investing in yourself. You're betting on yourself. You're creating wealth for yourself. You're paying yourself first. And then all the rest of your income, right, is for your operating expenses that you have for your lifestyle that you have right now. But when you're paying yourself first, of the 15%, 20%, whatever number, right, feels good for you, that's what's paying you for your life later. And I think that's where we start to get in this tricky mentality of what you just said when we see 10 years of overnight success on an Instagram feed that looks really great and curated. And we're selling courses that make you $300,000 in the next 5 months. It took them 10 years to learn what they know to be able to tell you to do that. Now, I'm just going to say this out loud. There's a whole slew of mental mentality that is being missed, that is being taught in these courses of the 10 years of like your journey of ups and downs, failures, repeats, not learning your lessons, right? Doing the lessons over and over again. And I think it's really, really beautiful that like you're just out here telling folks like, listen, you just got to bet on yourself. You got to invest in yourself because you're the only person at the end of the day that can rely on your own self. You have nobody else that's coming to save you, especially as an entrepreneur. I mean, how many people, John, do you have coming to you and be like, let me just help you. Let me just go ahead and I'll just do this for you so that you can kick it back and have it easy. I'm pretty sure no one.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Like, and everybody knocking on your door saying that they want to help you, their hidden message is, I want to get money from you.
Yeah.
No, nobody's there to do things out of goodness of their heart. And most of the gurus telling you that they can help you for a low price of $18.99 are only making money out of their $18.99 you're giving them. They're not making money any other way. So if they can't help themselves, how can they help you? Right.
Powerful.
So I want to debunk another thing, and I'm going to get a lot of people that are going to hate me for this.
No, go
ahead. And I really believe it. I truly
We're
believe
here for ruffling feathers, John.
So now, exactly. Yeah. So another thing that people believe is this education crap. And I'm not against education. Don't misunderstand me, because part of our message here when we invest in yourself, education is a part of investing in yourself.
Yes.
What I mean by that is you need relevant education, not just education to say you did it. Going for your MBA because you're not doing well in what you're doing now is a cop-out. It is not a solution. It is the cop-out to say that I want to give up, but I don't want people to know that I gave up. So I'm going to create this illusion and this mirror to say that I'm going to get my MBA because it's going to help me. And more than likely, if what you've learned now hasn't helped, having an MBA to do what you do now isn't going to help either. The only thing you're going to have is more debt. I don't believe in the education system in the way that it is today. I don't believe you do it with a student loan. I think the worst debt you can get, aside from consumerism and credit card debts, is school debt.
I agree.
Now, to be clear, if you're a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, go to school. I get that. Accountant even, go to school. I get that. But you don't need an education to be a construction worker, other than the skilled trades, which they're paying for anyways. You don't need an education to start your own business. You don't need an education to be a content creator. You don't need an education to be a garbage man. You don't need an education for pretty much, I would say, 75% of the stuff that's out there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't educate yourself. I'm saying don't go into debt to do that. Because that's a debt that'll last for 20, 30 years. And in fact, the majority of the people are struggling to get out of that debt. And it doesn't pay off, because if you can't pay that debt off within the first 5 to 10 years, it wasn't a debt worth having.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, you and I are on the same track with that. And I, as someone that has a bachelor's degree and was thinking about going to get a master's degree, it's really one of those things that you have to, if it is associated with your value, keyword, your value, not your parents' values, not your family values, not your grandma's, aunt's, cousins, sisters, brothers twice removed because they went to college and got a PhD and you think you need to do that too. If it is aligned with your value, then yes, absolutely, 100%. Go to school, get a degree, whatever makes sense for you. But I think that, at least in our culture, I don't know what it is like in Canada, but we put a lot of emphasis on must have a college degree, of bachelor's or master's degree, and here we are making $18, $20 an hour. And I just find it fascinating that people are, and I was a recruiter for a really long time. I was in the HR space, so I know exactly how this goes. I had to spend weeks, if not months, trying to educate employers to help them understand that this person with 15 years experience that has a high school diploma is way overqualified than the person that just got fresh out of college that has no work experience, but they have a degree. And I think we've degraded as much work as people actually put in their lives by saying to them, you're not really worth anything because you don't have a college degree, even if they have 20 years experience in that field. Yeah, and it doesn't make sense to me.
I'm going to open people's eyes here right now.
Please.
Because I had contract jobs that I'd taken because they just paid really well. And It's one of those things I didn't really want them. Some of them I wanted, but they just paid really well, like stupid money. And I took them. Now, here's the thing that's going to shock everybody. You know when they got my resume? The week before I left the job. And why? It goes back to what I just said, who, not how. I got the job because people knew my skill and said, well, you can do this job and we need somebody's help and we don't have time to go through the training and the program's only just say 6 weeks. We need somebody for 6 weeks to get this done and we need somebody who can just walk and get the job done and leave. So I had the right who. I was in that right circle. where the person knew that I knew the job. I knew that I can get the job done. Offered me the job. At the end of the last paycheck that I got, well, they said, well, we need your resume and we need all your information to file so we can have that in our records. So I got the job without even applying, and I didn't even give them the resume until I was already hired. So my point I'm getting at is, when you're going through those growing pains, why? Because people have to hire, and they don't know what to look for. So I have a job. What should I ask for? I don't know. See what education they have. Why? Default. Not really because they need it. It's just something that we're programmed to do. And if you're in the right circle and you get recommended, all of a sudden, whatever they have on LinkedIn saying that they need isn't needed because you're the who, not the how.
Be the who and not the how.
Exactly.
John, what final words can you give us?
Final words basically going to be live your life intentionally, live life how you want to live, be joyful, grateful, and inspiring to others. Get known, be consistent. When you get out there, you're going to get more opportunities. The more you're known, the more opportunities that will be in front of you, but be intentional in creating those. And just always invest in yourself and stop your consumerism and invest in wealth. Invest in wealth building, invest in outcomes. Do not buy consumers. You don't need a new iPhone unless your phone doesn't turn on. You don't need a new car. Just fix the one you have. You don't need a summer vacation home. Don't need any of the consumer's product. You don't need new clothes. You don't need a new purse. You don't need most of the stuff you're doing. Do it with passive income, not with earned income. Earned income, best way to look at it and say, should I buy this? Do I pay with taxable income? Yes. Then the answer is no. If I pay it with passive income, which is at a lot lower tax rate, capital gains, I believe, and it's going to vary where you are, but is roughly around 25%, where earned income is 50% when you're at the higher levels. So which one would you rather use, the 25% or the 50% income? So invest in yourself, look forward, invest in long-term wealth, be patient, keep growing, keep learning, and then just be better every single day. If you're 1% better than you were, if you're 1% better today than you were yesterday, then you're on the right track.
John, thank you so much for your rich wisdom and everything that you've poured into us today. I'm so grateful that I met you, truly.
Thank you.
And for those of you that are looking to connect with John, Facebook and his website, all of those links will be in the show notes for you. Get connected with John. He has some really rich content and he has a podcast. So we will link that for you and you can go get all the downloads from him and all of his knowledge to keep learning. Thanks, John, again.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the show today. If you heard something that helped you, I would love it if you would leave a review and share it with your friends. This helps more people just like you become inspired to move the needle of their big CEO energy into a positive direction. If you would like to learn more about how I can help you streamline and position your business for growth or lead your business as a CEO, feel free to jump into the show notes with all of the links to find me. And don't forget to head over to Instagram so we can be pals.